If you stepped into one of our places, like B&Q or Screwfix, or if you're from France, then Castorama, or if you're in Russia, then in Castorama as well, then you know what Kingfisher is all about. Now, Kingfisher is a group that does retail in the home improvement area. So all of these names operate under the one roof. And I was looking at some of the presentations, so I was especially bricks to, you know what, I said, damn, use the title. Can't use that, I'll need to switch to something else. Look for other analogies, but I've just went with the very elaborate title. And I think one of the interesting things is that Kingfisher is on a journey of change, which means that up until about 4 years ago, each of these entities was operating completely separately. And they had everything which is regulatory, legally, training-wise, everything in-house. Over the last 2 years, we've been working very hard on the HR environment to bring it together, but some of the challenges is we still haven't. So I couldn't simply press a button and get a list of those 80,000 people. I couldn't simply press another button and say, there you go, here's your GDPR training. So it became a very interesting adventure, especially because we didn't have anybody responsible for compliance when we started it. They joined a little bit later. But as we were looking around the market for how we need to address this, we realized that we have a few challenges in 3 main areas. So I was talking about the numbers, but if you look at the way we operate today, we've had 3 areas of challenges. So on the human side, we have people who are on the store floor. They don't have access to PCs. We cannot take them off the floor to put them in the classroom. So that's an interesting challenge. Different cultures. I think everybody is now aware of the differences in culture, specifically around Russia as an example. We have about 3,700 staff in Russia, and I learned when I started working with them that smiling is something you do not do. So I promised not to smile during the presentation. But those are things that we needed to take into account when we were working on it. Technologically, again, we have a vast variety. So B&Q, for example, are totally up to date. They have their platforms, they have their engines, everything is up to date. But because we don't have a centralized HR platform, as I said, in some cases, I wouldn't even be able to tell you who the 11,000 employees in Poland are. We just don't have those systems. So putting that on top of the fact that we don't have emails for more than half of our colleagues, and it was definitely an adventure. So we knew we wanted to do something, had to do something, and we knew we wanted it to be different, because if you've ever done some digital learning about anything, the only thing that you probably remember is that somewhere on the screen there was a next button, and we didn't want that. So we looked around. I'm going to skip it because of briefness of time, and what we decided to go for is a conversational experience. So the idea is very, very simple. You can pick up any device you want, and you have a conversation. We started with the samurai, but it then evolved to other characters, and I'll talk about that in a minute. The idea is very simple if you've used a messaging platform like WhatsApp or SMS on your phone. And you can see here on the right, we have screens from Russian, Turkish, and English. And the idea is that you have a conversation. The samurai brings up cards that you need to read. There are interactions. If at any point you need to suddenly put it down and then move away, you can put it down and then continue from exactly the same spot in a PC in the back room, or go back to your phone later. Not a problem. It's completely open, and it's completely simple. We also needed to bridge the gap around having no email. Anybody who will tell you that delivering to users who have emails, very simply, you can chase them and threaten them and do everything. When you don't have any emails, there are a bit of a problem with that, because you cannot chase them. So what we did was we shifted the responsibility from the individuals to line managers. Now, the interesting thing was that this was not a tick box exercise for us. It was a genuine attempt to move forward and look at how we can make this interesting for them, but also how we can make it useful for us. And what you're seeing here is the back end, or in terms of how we use data. So it started from the very simple metrics of how many people went through it, completed it, but then continued into segmentation by stores. So there was competition, which I have to admit, personally, I underestimated. It's unbelievable to see a store manager say, I really need to beat the store next to me, and we're only at 83%. How do I get to the rest of the guys? But the most interesting component was the fact that we didn't just look at completion, but we also look at what they understood and what they didn't.